I showed this Danish Krag Jorgensen barreled action a few months ago. I bought it as it's shown here, and it had two major issues. I was able to solve the first, the incorrect torque between the action and the barrel. The second I wasn't able to fix. That's the loose rear sight. Though I was able to get it more in line with where it should be, it's still loose. Obviously, this is a no-go when it comes to shooting. Sights need to stay in one place to have any hope of getting a decent grouping. I could easily tighten the screws that hold the rear sight to the barrel jacket. However, they're inside of it, which means it needs to be removed. But like I showed in the last video, it's stuck. This homemade pin wrench broke trying to remove it. I've since repaired this with a pin made from a grade 8 bolt, which hopefully will hold up better. That is where attempt number 2 starts. I'll get this disassembled to leave only the barreled action once again. I won't only be using this pin wrench to attempt to remove the barrel jacket. Last time I used a heat gun to help loosen it, but that didn't do the job. This time I'll use a torch to give it a proper heating. The problem with that though, is that the area to be heated is only a few inches away from the receiver and the bolt locking surface. I don't want to overheat that, which could weaken it and create a failure. Which means I need to undo the work I did in the previous video and remove the receiver. I also need to remove the rear sight so as to not interfere with the temper of the small springs within. I got this all set up to remove the barrel, or in this case, to remove the receiver. Let's see how much force this takes. And that broke free easily. I need to remove this clamp attaching the barrel vise to the workbench in order to unscrew the receiver the rest of the way. Actually, I'll take the action vise off as well. The less stress on the barrel threads, the better. Then the receiver unscrews all the way. One thing I didn't address in the previous video was this burr on the end of the barrel. If you remember, the receiver hadn't been fully screwed on, and the extractor groove was misaligned. A previous owner ramming the bolt closed probably caused this issue. It didn't affect anything, since this action shot just fine, but for aesthetics, I'll carefully remove it with a file. Though I removed the rear sight leaf, unfortunately I can't remove this spring here, since it looks like one of the screws runs through it. I'll have to be careful with the torch, and keep the heat only in this area. Another issue is how much time I have to get this into the barrel vise before it cools down. I'll have to move quickly to ensure that the barrel jacket is still hot. The idea with the heat is that it'll cause the metal to expand, the thinner steel of the barrel jacket expanding at a faster rate than the thicker steel of the barrel, causing it to break free. It actually broke free. I was about to call this second attempt a failure as well. It took a lot more heat than I thought I'd need, which is why it took a few cycles. These are now plenty hot. I'll let them cool before taking a closer look. Now that these are cool, I can inspect them to see why it was so hard to unscrew. At first glance, there's no rust that would have fused these together. The threads of the barrel look fine. I don't see any signs of the end of the jacket being deformed. And the threads on the inside look fine too. I am curious though, just how far does this barrel screw on by hand before it gets tight? The alignment marks look to be around 10 to 15 degrees off. That's evidently enough to get these two as stuck as they were, which of course is something I want to avoid when reassembling this. The barrel jacket should only be hand tight. The pitch of the threads that hold this on are fine, around 22 per inch. Using some rough math, I can calculate just how much material needs to be removed from the end of the barrel jacket. In essence, not very much material at all, between 1 and 2 thousandths. This won't fit in my lathe, so I'll file by hand. To not crush the thin steel, I'll insert a piece of brass, shimmed to be a snug fit. The vise will hold it just barely. I'll be very careful to file evenly around the circumference, so as to not create any gaps when it's screwed on. A bit more to go. After hand tightening, the marks are just a hair away from being perfectly aligned. Instead of filing more and risk overshooting the mark, I'll use the wrench to get it perfectly aligned when reassembling. With it being so close, it won't get stuck like it was. Now that that's settled, it's finally time to adjust the loose rear sight, which is the whole point of removing the barrel jacket in the first place. Though I only really need to tighten these screws, I want to remove them to take a look at the damage caused previously by someone trying to use the rear sight to unscrew their barrel jacket. Another reason to remove the sight is to clean all the dirt and dried grease that's accumulated in here. There's small cracks on either side of the rear screw hole, but the middle itself all seems to be in alignment. The front hole looks fine. I'll reassemble the rear sight base now. I added the screws to the barrel jacket already. It was somewhat tricky to show on camera, with them being inserted inside of it. That's all there is to it. There's no play in the rear sight anymore. Now to get this reassembled, but before the barrel jacket goes on, I need to retorque the receiver. There's no alignment marks between the receiver and barrel. I align them using the extractor groove instead. I'll assemble the rest now. Turns out I didn't need the wrench when reassembling. The marks are already aligned perfectly just by hand tightening. Looking back, this has been a lot of work to just tighten 2 screws. But the result is that the rear sight is now firmly attached to the barrel jacket and wobble free. Another plus is that I was able to inspect the barrel and verify there's no rust on the outside of it. With it hidden under the barrel jacket, I couldn't tell previously. Stay tuned for more on this action in the future. Hopefully it will become a complete rifle. Thanks for watching.